We're gonna call the meeting to order. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see this good-looking group out here today. And it's good to have a good audience out here. So, don't these commissioners look good today? All right, we're gonna get going here. We're gonna call things to order, and the first thing we're gonna do is, have a roll call.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We got Chairman Glover,
Here.
Commissioner Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Neil Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner William Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Bush. Commissioner Leggett,
Here.
Commissioner Reeves,
Here.
Commissioner Brewer,
Here.
and Commissioner McDermott.
Here. Thank you very much. All right, so next we're gonna look at the minutes. So everybody had a chance to go over the minutes? Got any questions or corrections to do? If not, do we hear a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and second to adopt the minutes. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed,
Yes.
no? That passes. All right, now we're going to our business here. The first thing we got is, director's report. So Chris, we'll turn it over.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll give a quick director's report. As many of you know, and as I reported at the September meeting, we're continuing to work on the state water plan. And so we completed phase one of the water plan and submitted all of those components to the governor, and we've since started on phase two. And phase two is roughly going to take us into 2026 before we get it all finished. Two things that we did kind of right off the bat, the three things really is, one, we're going to continue to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They're in the process of hiring a contractor. Hopefully that contractor will be in place in December. But prior to that contract coming on, we actually did a couple of stakeholder meetings. So we did one for water supply, and then we did one for infrastructure. And so we worked cooperatively with Cooperative Extension Service. They helped facilitate those meetings. We had about 45 participants that work in those industries, and work around water supply and work around infrastructure. So, that was good. We're in the process of finalizing all of the recommendations that came out of that. And then what we hope to do is use some of those recommendations as survey questions in the future. But it's the first of actually many stakeholder engagements that we'll do as part of the water plan, because it is a very stakeholder driven process. We also updated the Illinois River Watershed Management Plan. So this is up in Northwest Arkansas. This has been roughly a 3+ year effort. Tate Wentz on our staff has been leading that with our partners from Oklahoma and a lot of constituent groups up there. But that watershed management plan is complete. I mean, and this is a hefty document. We're talking 425 pages. So a lot of data, a lot of recommendations on practices and different things to do to try to reduce nutrients in the Illinois River. Is that watershed management plan is now on our website, and a lot of our partners, Illinois River Watershed Partnership and others have that plan. So it'll be a good guide for a lot of different conservation efforts. The Alliance Project, this is a project that we're doing roughly in East and South Arkansas. And so we actually went out for applications in August, late August, and extended that application period to October 2nd. And as of right now, it looks like we're going to award about 5.2 million. This is Virginia Tech. The funds will go directly from Virginia Tech for practices to about 378 farms across 6 counties. And so we have technicians and districts that are actually reviewing all of those applications, and we'll work closely with Virginia Tech on getting those dollars out the door. And some of those practices are practices that we really like. They're NRCS practices, so like alternate wetting and drying for rice, which we like for, especially in critical groundwater areas for water conservation. So we think it hopefully will produce some really good results. Related to groundwater, we had our groundwater summit in early November in Stuttgart. And so Blake Forrest, who mans our groundwater section, supervisor for that section, led that. We did that over at the Arkansas Agricultural Experiment Station. We had about 87 folks in attendance, and these are practitioners, researchers that all gave presentations on a whole lot of different aspects related to groundwater, both from a research standpoint, but even the societal side of like participating in programs and practices and what are some of the barriers to that when you're talking about trying to conserve groundwater. So really good work there and really good attendance. And then last couple of things. So many of you are accustomed to seeing Mike Sullivan here, who's given, updates and reports. Well, Mike retired from NRCS several months ago, and they just recently named Amanda Mathis to take over as the state conservationist. So we worked with Amanda very closely through the years, so we're happy for her. And we have Justin Meisner on the agenda for later to give a report, and so he's the acting state conservationist right now, but we'll hear a little bit more from him later. And then last, you may have seen this, but in case you didn't, Secretary Ward was elected as the president of the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. And so that's a big deal. That's the first time someone representing Arkansas has been elected to that position. So we're happy for him. And there'll actually be a conference here in Rogers, the NASDAQ conference in September. And so when we get to our commission meeting dates, I'll make a note that we may shift that September date around that conference, but we'll have to see when we get all the details. But that concludes my report.
Okay, very good. Any correct questions for Chris on his report? It doesn't have anything to do with that, but we toured that on the Illinois River, that construction of that rapids they were building.
Yeah.
They've got that finished and that's going, or?
Yeah, that's, I think it's Woka, it's the whitewater park that they have there. Yeah, it's going. And, we also toured NACA, which was the large wastewater treatment facility for Northwest Arkansas that is there, close to the Illinois River. So a lot of work. A lot of work going on in that part of the world. Try to improve water quality.
Okay, we're gonna have a financial report. Mrs. Aki, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. On the financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2024. On the Water Development Fund. Excuse me. Resources provided through the end of this reported period total $271,436.74. Disbursement through the end of October 2024 total $862,183.48, with $8,139,662.41 in outstanding commitment, including our emergency reserve, and 3 new financial assistance requests totaling $631,911. This leaves $7,507,751.41 available for future water development projects. On the water, sewer, solid waste, our resources provided through the end of this reported period total $196,514.58. All repayments, disbursement through the end of October total $1,159,247, with $9,098,478.17 in outstanding commitment, including the emergency reserve, and 1 new financial assistance request totaling $363,697. This leaves $8,734,781.17 available for future water, sewer, solid waste projects. On the general obligation bonds, One new obligation to report totaling $247,257. With no overcommitment to report, this leaves $5,981,327.40 available for future abatement projects. And that concludes the financial report.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You guys have, questions? Appreciate it very much. Okay, we have a legal report. Is Tanner? Tanner here.
Good morning, commissioners. Happy to see you all again. Everybody's doing well. Y'all deer hunt. I hope everybody's having a good season. I've had a decent one so far. A little extra time to go. So I'll cut to the chase here this morning now and get to the legal report. A lot of times we've had public water authority conversions that have happened in between our meetings. There really hasn't been any sort of new application sent out, which is a little odd since I think, we've got that set up and usually there's a little bit more. So there's no new issues there. And I believe Blake has the bulk of the fines and disciplinary actions that will come from the Water Well Construction Commission, and Commissioner McDermott will cover that as well. I believe in his report from the committee. I'll be here to answer any questions about that as well. The main issue is our next meeting, which is a special meeting, which is the compliance determination hearing. This is, just to summarize, y'all probably heard this ad nauseam. We've sent y'all a couple notices of hearings. We've had a continuance there. This will review a decision by the director, Chris, on a water plant compliance project in the Blythe Mountain area. There's a rural area out there. Central Arkansas Water had a petition for, reached out and applied for water plant compliance. And per the rules, folks that would be aggrieved by the decision were allowed 10 days to submit a request to the commission to review Chris' decision. And this is not a normal commission meeting. This is a hearing governed by the Administrative Procedures Act that is spelled out in the rules in Title I, the main commission rules, and then in Title VI when it's talking about water plant compliance, more particular in that. So in this sort of hearing, I want to make sure we kind of get a broad idea of what this is going to look like, what y'all can expect. I'm not going to get into my argument that I will present there, sort of an opening statement or in the lines of questioning that I will bring a witness to, but this is more akin to a trial than it is a normal commission meeting or a public comment hearing when you have a opportunity to go in and members of the public can issue their comments, things like that. 5 folks have petitioned for.
You said
5 individuals, yes, sir. And 4 of them are kind of grouped together. They've got a nonprofit going for that area and they've hired counsel and kind of a lone ranger for taking the case back and forth. Well, like I said, there has been counsel hired for the party that's kind of grouped together, and I was dealing with the ringleader of that group kind of before that, and she was glad to talk to. She was very polite, and we talked back and forth, and that's how we decided to continue that there. They were looking for an attorney, and to be fair, you give them a little bit of grace. That's why we pushed back a little bit there. So
now this is the group that's opposed.
opposed, yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, I don't want to let me
No
in.
problem. Yes, that's the group that's opposed. There's 4 of them, and then there's 1 extra who's kind of doing his own thing, and if he hires counsel or if he joins in, then the other right to do that. Everybody not to as well to go pro se. So kind of give you a practical idea of what this is going to look like. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit more akin to a trial, or if you've been to any other commission longstanding hearings on that. I know we asked one big on the lithium issue last couple weeks, and that kind of, in my give you an idea on there if you want to look up here, but we have a hearing officer and a court reporter, and that means any witness that we bring is going to be under oath, sworn, just like in a court of law. The hearing officer operates as a judge would in the issue of evidentiary matters, any sort of rulings on objections, admitted evidence, any sort of other fact issue you come up with. Y'all are the deciding factor. It's like the role of a judge and jury has been kind of split. Y'all have certain judge-like final determination, decision authority, and fact-finding authority that you would be in a jury. That's a nice little analogy there, just kind of get heads up on that. So the rules that will be at issue will be Title I, which is the normal rules for the commission. You can go on our website and get that. We also copied that and put the relevant provisions in that notice of hearing that we sent out to each of y'all. And then if the roll call to order, present the commission with each party's dockets to review the record before we get into any sort of witness testimony, and let y'all take a look at this. We have not sent our total record to any of you beforehand because in the Administrative Procedures Act, the docket, the issues at hand, the record is the deciding factor on this. And number one, you want to eliminate any sort of like outside ex parte conversations with anybody else before this. And you want to make your decision upon the information that you have in front of you. And that's on commissions that are governed by the APA. PC&E, they are not governed by APA, so they have a little bit, as an example, they will have recommendations by staff and hearing officers and attorneys given to them beforehand to review. Since this is akin to a trial and y'all are akin to a jury, the evidence will be presented to you that day. And that's what we want to eliminate, any sort of potential issues with that. So review it. There will be opening statements. Probably will give one. It's not required, but a hearing officer will allow us to give one there. They may allow of course, the other parties will give their opening statements. Examination of witnesses and sort of cross-examinations of witnesses, commissioners on each witness coming up. You will all have the chance to ask your own questions. You have that ability to ask the question of the witness there. And each and every one that we have, if you're not necessarily following what they're saying, or just want to clarify, something bug you that you hear, anything that happens, you can ask your questions there. Next, once we get all the witnesses there, all the evidence, review everything there, parts of rest, deliberations happen. A lot of times we've got the hearing officer, Charlie Moulton, I've talked to him, he said, we'll take it off record, meaning court reporter. It's still under FOIA, so it's still public record, but deliberations will be kind of off the transcript because that's not required by the act, and that requires a lot of pages of typing and a lot of extra reporter stuff there. So there, let's see, I will probably, in the middle of that, I'll be there to answer any legal questions there. You all make the final determination. Of course, I have a position that I will let you know, tell you what my argument is in opening and closing statements, and that will be fleshed out in any sort of testimony that we have. But at that point, make a motion on each decision of fact and law, and then decide either way. So that's how that kind of looks like. So is there any questions in any place? Yes, sir.
Just as in a simple term, basically, this group one group wanted additional water extended, and Chris approved that under his authority.
Mhm.
Another group didn't want it, and so they're appealing his decision. Is that the crux of it?
That is the crux of it.
Okay.
Very good, sir. Anybody else?
So what do? One group wants it and one don't.
That'd be for us to decide whether we want to
Yeah.
support Chris's decision and give it to them and deny the other group, or we want to vote against what he decided and not give it to them.
Well, is there a group that, so we have the vocal, organized somewhat opposition group. Is there a organized for group that's coming?
There has not been any sort of interference of a support group.
Tanner, could you speak up just a little bit?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize. So the Central Arkansas Water, they haven't sent any sort of legal counsel as an entry of appearance. I don't know if they're gonna show up or not. This is, since it's not a public comment type period, anybody else that's not a petitioner or a called witness is not gonna be allowed to speak because it is more of a hearing rather than everybody come and state your case type deal. We're just gonna allow the people who petitioned, just like in a court of law, to speak and call their own witnesses and all of that. So there has not been any sort of entry by the support group, and that's not surprising because, again, it's not necessarily adversarial between that group and this other group. It's Chris made a decision. Did he make the right decision? We think no, Department thinks yes, and that's how that kind of gets. They have the right to send anybody on their behalf. I believe that's not really that, but I have not just yet.
Well, I'm just surprised there's not people saying, hey, we want this water here. I would think the community would want this.
Well, the people that's already got water probably don't want to pay the extra amount.
Is that what this boils down to, is a rate increase, and that's why there's opposition to it?
No, it doesn't boil down to, well, you answer.
Well, that does kind of get into the facts situation. There are answers to those questions in the document that I have there, and that kind of gets into the facts of the deal. So I'm not trying to sidestep an answer there, but my answer is stay tuned. Well, you'll see.
Tanner, you may have said, and I just didn't hear you, but the againers, what is their problem with it?
That's a good question, if we can discuss that. So what is there, why the heck would you want water to come to your community?
That is a very good question. And again, this is gonna sound like a dodge to the answer. That does get into the facts of this, and I can't necessarily state that case right now, because that does kind of get into their side's argument of that issue. And they have counsel, once they come here and flesh out their witnesses,
So they're gonna be here to,
they will make their argument after here. Yes, sir. They'll do it.
Does this involve any additional, industrial plant or any residential development?
That, again,
In other words, the water expansion, does this allow for additional? I guess what I'm saying is we agreed to expand the water lines, if I understand it right. So that there has to be some purpose for extending them, either additional residential development or industrial development. Someone had to request it, and they had a reason for requesting it. I'm assuming, is that correct?
that is correct. There are reasons that they have requested it. I am being very guarded.
Gotcha, I understand. Okay, well,
All the Attorney Weasley answers that you get. You will find out someday. I promise you that.
that's not, probably not the last time to hear that question then.
And these are good questions. You don't want to fly blind.
I read through that thing three times, and all I got out of it was that they seemed to be aggravated because they wasn't given enough notice or timely notice. That's all I got.
That's their legal objection. That's not the real objection.
I can state that is an issue that we have listed on our hearing notice there in some of the allegations, facts on that. And so that's, whatever's on the notice is the extent of the facts that I can extend. And then kind of blur the lines on getting into our opinion, which we did.
Okay.
So now, why was it put off?
The
The hearing?
hearing rescheduled, they had contacted me and they were looking for
Who is they?
the group that was a little bit more organized, and of course, they have worked with the other guy who's doing it on his own. They were looking for counsel, and really just as a courtesy in kind of the legal world, when people ask for a continuance, just kind of say, hey, let's see if we can work this out. And we gave them a date that would benefit y'all, us, benefit them. They accepted it, and we have it on December 18th, right here at It's 10 o'clock. So. We'll double check that.
Chair,
10 a.m. in the morning, December 18th. Great question, man.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Please,
So I'm curious, from a legal perspective, what direction, or let me ask it differently. Do we have the ability to go into any type of executive session to get legal advice? Because where my mind goes is some of this may be within our charge as a commission, but some of it may be more of a zoning issue. So how do we get guidance from a legal perspective on where we should and shouldn't be considering any facts of this case?
That's a very good question. And legal advice wise, well, executive session, those are used for a little bit more of the personnel and employment type decisions in administrative government roles and whatnot. So we wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but I know what you're getting at is any sort of side issue. Again, this is another sidestep, kind of wait for the hearing type answer, but in the opening statement that I'll give the reasons why we have come to our determination, what our advice is. I don't know whether to look at the TV or the cameras over there. So what our advice and what our conclusions are on this issue, what the argument is from the department, what we think is the best outcome, same as the other folks on the other side who have hired counsel. They have right to make their arguments. And then when it comes to deliberation issues and whatnot, and that sort of situations, even those are under FOIA, doesn't have to necessarily be on the record as a transcript, and say on the court reporter there. So we'll probably go off the record at that point, and any sort of legal questions on that, on making sure that all right, this is the issue that they brought up, this is the law here. That's when I kind of step in, yes, somewhat of an advisory role. I know at that point, I just made an argument, so it's kind of administrative laws, kind of blurring the line in between. But any sort of questions regarding legal issues would then be able to be fielded.
But what I got out additionally talking about, a jury goes into deliberations where they talk privately among themselves. But we have any kind of opportunity, obviously it's not gonna be an executive session because it's not gonna be a session of this group. We're in a different role. But would there be any opportunity that this group could privately discuss what we think about it? And, well, I didn't understand like that. And Will said, well, I understood this, and discuss it to come to a conclusion.
The answer to that is no on private deliberation, and that is because of the Freedom of Information Act. The purpose of the act is to make sure that the public knows why the commission voted on this issue in this way, and why each commissioner, if you say it out loud, why you voted for that certain issue or against a certain issue. And that is where the analogy to a jury and a judge breaks down. And so that's how administrative law is its own deal. Since we're administrating, doing all of that, and public decisions, policies, all of that, FOIA holds.
It seems like this is gonna be an awkward situation to me.
We're big boys, we can do it.
Well, it ain't that. I mean, you gotta,
That's what we get paid for.
somebody's gonna have to make a decision, about is we're gonna back Chris or not, basically, is what it comes down to.
Yes, that is what it comes down to, decision on Chris's decision. And then they can appeal to circuit court if they didn't like any of y'all's determinations as well, so. It may get awkward, it may not, just two sides come together and argue, but they've been polite so far, but, we disagree.
Well, you've done a good job of explaining
Thanks, sir. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tanner. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to item number 5 here, which is the second big election of this year. We've already had one big election, and so I know the press, the press outside. Yeah,
Is it out with the old and in with the new?
out with the old, in with the new. So, now we're gonna move to the election of officers for 2025. So I am going to ask Neil Anderson to take charge here.
Thank you, sir. Nominating committee has met and we have nominated Jamie Burr for chairman, Mr. William Anderson as vice chairman.
All right. You wanna make that form of motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? Election of those officers. Sound like awful good people to me.
That was a hard choice.
All right, everybody in favor of this, yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. So Jamie Burr will be the chairman for the coming year. And William Anderson will be the vice chair for the coming year.
Congratulations.
Big party, folks.
Now we are going to go to the adoption of the 2025 meeting schedule. Chris, you have info on that?
Yes, sir. In your packet, you will see a list of meeting dates for 2025. At the last meeting of each calendar year, we are to set our meeting dates for the next year. And so those are in your packet. We typically meet the third Wednesday every other month. At 9:30 is typically when we meet, although we shift that time around based on how full the agenda is. But you can see the meeting dates, January 15th, March 13th coincides with the AACD meeting, which we've had a history of having the meeting there. March 21st, July 16th, September 17th. One thing I'll mention about that date is that is the same time as the NASDA conference. You heard me talk a little bit about Secretary Ward being elected as the president of NASDA. That meeting date very likely may change depending on the schedule of the NASDA meeting. But the thought is maybe we could have it in Northwest Arkansas, maybe directly after the meeting or tied somewhere to the meeting. But I'm gonna say right now tentatively, it's September 17th, but that likely will change. And as we know more about the conference, we'll know more about when that actual date needs to be. Typically, the September meeting is when we try to do a field trip. You know, we did the irrigation projects in September. And so, you know, while we were up there, we'll try to do something, or wherever we meet, we'll try to do something, where we can take you all out, maybe see a project that we funded or other things. So just know that that date's liable to change, and then November 19th will be our last. Ask for, you know, consideration.
All right, you guys, see these dates, so
Move we accept this recommendation.
I see.
there's a motion and second that we accept these dates for next year's meetings. Anybody got any questions on those or comments on them? If not, all in favor, yes.
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 Opposed, no. So those will be set. That's the dates. So we're gonna have a report and an update from the Water Well Committee, and, Mike, you gonna do
Don't
that?
have that thing.
We'll see it in here.
The one, okay.
It's not in your packet. Skip over that.
Yes, we're gonna skip over that.
Yeah, I have it on my phone if you want me to just read it off my phone.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I could read it here. Yeah, I thought maybe they might want to read, but I got it on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I move up closer? I can't hear back.
You sure can. Get up here.
You want to trade spots, man? You want to go over there?
No, I'm over there. Hey, there's word Chris said, yeah.
Probably all right. You're probably still, you're better off, maybe.
We couldn't hardly see you back there either.
Yeah, kept waiting, Becky. Couldn't see it.
No, I couldn't see you. You was out in left field. Okay,
Ready?
yeah,
The Waterwell Commission Committee met October 16th at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Division. Committee members are attending for myself, David Washington, and our new appointee, David Gilmore. Since the July 31st committee meeting, 31 waterwell contractors, 39 drillers, 35 pump installers, and 22 apprentices have registered. The total number of 2025 licensees include 137 contractors, 206 drillers, 58 driller apprentices, and 188 pump installers with 80 apprentices. The committee discussed two active cases. The Natural Resources Division received a formal complaint from Caddo Mountain Spring Water LLC alleging that waterwell contractor Environmental Works Incorporated out of Springfield, Missouri, improperly constructed water wells on their property in 2021, resulting in contamination of a prospective spring water bottling facility. After discussing case details with staff, the committee accepted a motion to pursue 4 first offense level fines against Environmental Works Incorporated, 2 violations for not turning in construction reports to the commission, and 2 counts for not having a registered driller on site, for a total fine of $1,000. And number 2, a landowner complaint against All About Wells and Service LLC resulted in the Natural Resources Division staff determining that All About Wells had failed to turn in a construction report within 90 days of completion of construction of a water well. The committee discussed the details of the complaint and accepted a motion to recommend a first offense level fine to All About Wells and Service for failure to submit a well construction report to the commission within 90 days of construction of the commission. The committee discussed supporting training efforts for the upcoming Arkansas Waterwell Contractors Association's annual meeting, using the Natural Resources Division waterwell funds for a first aid training seminar, and possibly having Natural Resources Division staff conduct a training session or providing support for other training sessions. Training at this meeting is one of the primary sources of in-person CEU credits for Arkansas licensed waterwell contractors. And we have 2 action items. Approve 4 fines of $250 each for Environmental Works Incorporated, 2 fines for failure to submit well reports, and 2 for not having a registered operator on the job site. To approve a fine of $250 for All About Wells and Service LLC for not bringing in well reports within 90 days of construction. That's the 2 items we have.
all right. Y'all hear this report, you hear these action items, here. So you won't put that in the form of a motion?
I move that we accept the committee's report and approve the 4 fines of $250 each for Environmental Works Incorporated, 2 fines for not sending a report in, 2 for not having an registered operator on a job site. That's $1,000, and then $250 for All About Wells and Service for not training and within 90 days to turn in a report. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Question. Those maximum fines, those seem really light.
Well, the fines were changed and they're kind of graduated up. They started low and they started graduating up. They're gonna build up quickly if they continue to mess up.
I believe these are first offenses.
Yes, it is.
So
First
first
offense.
offense is light, and then second offense is higher, third offense is higher.
Okay, the thing about you contaminating a water source, that's pretty serious to me. $250 fine is, that's,
Well, most of it's familiar, some failure to submit the reports into us.
Yes.
So they're supposed to submit their reports into us so that we can document the well.
thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and second. All right, Roy's got discussion here, other discussion.
Were these people present at the hearing?
Oh, I don't believe there were, no.
I don't think so.
Somebody didn't.
Other questions and discussions for Mac? If not, all in favor of this motion? Yes.
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 All right, that passes. Okay. Now the big one. The Debbie Dixon, please. This is application for financial assistance. That Debbie came all the way back. She was in Hollywood. Yeah, making a movie out there.
Was I now?
And she came back to do it. No, it's Long Beach you were in. wasn't it?
This is Long Beach. For a conference, talking about this very thing that we're gonna talk about here today. Well, good morning. We have just a few projects today. Today is our principal forgiveness recommendation, for y'all, and I just wanted to remind you of how we do this. I didn't put another slide up here, but I just wanted to kind of go over that just a little bit before we go into the actual recommendations. When we receive a funding application, we look at their financial status prior to the loan that they're requesting or the funding they're requesting. Then we do an analysis as if they received 100% loan. And we compare that to their median household income. I've shown you guys that rate burden factor calculation a couple of times. So at 100% loan, if they're, depending on their specifics, but in general, if they're 1.5% of their median household income or higher, then they're eligible to receive principal forgiveness. Once they're eligible, then we go look at the project priority list. This is a federal requirement. And depending on where they are on the list, will determine whether or not they receive principal forgiveness. So it's all based on the calculation. So if we do an analysis and 100% loan puts them at 2%, then we're gonna look and see, can we give them 75% of the project cost to get them back down to 1.5, or as close as we can get them back down to that 1.5. So that's just kind of a general overview of how we came up with these numbers. It's all done based on the rate burden factor, and then where are they on the project priority list? There's one list for drinking water, and there's a separate list for clean water, which is your wastewater project.
So there is a formula there.
There's a formula.
You don't just at random say we're forgiving here. There is a formula that you go by, rules and regulations.
Yeah, yes,
And these are the lists, so.
and yeah,
Kind of massage that formula a little bit, I bet.
kind of hard.
Let's get him on the front row here.
On those, there are a couple where we really had to push the edge a little bit to give them extra principal forgiveness in order to make it as affordable as we could. That doesn't mean it's necessarily affordable, but it's the best options that we can give them. They can still proceed and look for additional grant funds in other locations while they're going through our process. There's nothing wrong with that. And we actually, especially down in the Delta region, we often tell them, keep looking for money. And if you get additional grant somewhere else, we can work with you to reduce the loan on our side. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody remembered kind of how we do this. We're not just picking favorites. There's an actual formula. The project priority list is published on our website approximately quarterly. We put that into our intended use plan this year of when you have to submit your application to get on the list and when it will publish. So there's no more question about that. It's kind of iffy in the past about when we publish. But here are our totals for clean water and drinking water, and then our state funded programs. We're going to recommend about $69.7 million in loans out of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and about $11.5 million in loans with principal forgiveness. For the drinking water, we got about $86.7 million in loan funds and principal forgiveness about 33.2. And then we got some loans out of our 3 state programs for about $1.2 million. I'm going to remind you where that principal forgiveness comes from. The principal forgiveness comes from the EPA federal capitalization grant we get each year. There's a minimum and a maximum amount of each grant that we have to give out as principal forgiveness. For the infrastructure funds, it's 49% of each capitalization grant, so this is where these two numbers are coming from. And then in our base grants, I think it's up to 30% of each grant, depending on which one you're looking at, so. That's where those numbers come from. We don't get to pick how much is principal forgiveness, minimum and maximum. So here we go. We're gonna get
One
started.
question, do we
Yes,
have
sir.
any choice on the formula?
Which formula?
You said the formula you talked about is 1.5 times median income. Is that set by us or
Yes.
by Fed?
That is set by us.
All right, so we could make it 1.6, or we could make it 1.4.
We could.
How'd we come up with 1.5?
That was done prior to me. And it was actually established in our rules. And I don't remember back. They decided that 1.5%, so a total of 3% of the median household income is the maximum that they felt was not a burden. If you got over 3% of your median household income for water and wastewater, it would be burdensome on the citizens.
I guess that burden changes. We've had so much inflation in the last 4 years. It's interesting, I had one complaint on the way up here this morning. This was a lady from Hot Springs because of the increase in their water rate. I had another complaint since our last meeting, a different city that had raised their water rates because they were expanding and it needed to be raised to meet the debt. I understand about debt payment. So, but they were customers, users, and they were both, in this cases, were single people with a small household and having almost $100 a month water payment, water bill.
Go ahead.
Well, the other thing at work here is Act 605, so where by law, all of these water systems have to do rate studies. And they have to do a rate study and they have to implement the rates. And so that is going on at the same time we're doing our thing on the financing. If you've got this, and that was done by a task force that was done in 2017, when they looked at what are the things that really cripple systems. And one of the biggest things is they don't maintain their rates and they can't maintain quality workers. They also cannot keep up with infrastructure, and then they start to fail. They can't take loans. They can only take grants because they.
I understand that. The only difference is if you did more principal forgiveness, then the providers would have smaller payments to make. Or would not have to raise the rate as much.
True. The one thing I'll mention too is that calculation we put in our intended use plan to EPA that says, this is how we plan to get funding. This is how this is the calculation that we will use, and it's published in there so that everybody can see in the intended use plan going back to the funder that this is how it's going to work. Now, if we need to revisit the 1.5, I don't have an issue, but I mean, I think we'd want, input from a lot of different folks on, is that still a good number? But to Debbie's point, trying to keep water and sewer at or below 3% if possible. Now, that doesn't always work that way though, because we only have a limited amount of funding. So lots of requests, but a limited amount of funding, and we can only fund so many projects in principle.
I get it. As a retired banker, principal forgiveness violates everything that, well, that's something everyone with principal forgiveness. But in this situation, in taking care of our needs of our citizens,
Yeah.
and particularly what we've been in the last few years, that you get a different rub.
But there is a goal here of 3% of the median income.
That's
That's
the
always
ceiling.
our, to keep the water at 1.5 and the wastewater at 1.5, but again, there's not always enough money. I also wanted to point out that the LIWAP program, the individual systems can apply to DEQ, I believe, the Department of Health, DEQ, to get assistance for their citizens, for their individual customers to help reduce those monthly bills.
One other thing too, is remember this too, we're not the only funder. So there are other funders in the state with USDA rural development There's the CDBG program through Commerce, Delta Regional Authority a lot of times will fund projects. And so there's a lot of discussion with those funders every month as these projects are coming through the Water and Wastewater Advisory Committee. So there's a lot of thought in trying to send them to different fund sources to try to meet their need. One other thing I'll mention is we actually have a spreadsheet with all the projects on it. So if you can, whatever your choice is, if you want to follow the spreadsheet or if you want to go through the individual projects, that's up to you.
That's under the orange tab.
Yes.
And the projects are not in alphabetical order, they're in the order of the project priority list, so where they fell on the list. That's why they're not in alphabetical order, and, the project priority list score or rank is listed there on the left in that very small print, so you can all see it easily. Okay, are we ready? Okay. So first up, we have Arkansas Rural Water Association. This is for a wastewater circuit rider program. Now, this is a set aside. This is not taking money away from other systems that would get principal forgiveness out of our federal capitalization grant on the clean water side. We can take up to 2% for technical assistance, and this will provide a wastewater circuit rider that can go out when we have emergencies and the systems have problems. Rural Water will send them out to be there to help get them back on track, provide assistance, on-site training. If you have questions about that, Dennis is sitting in the back of the room over there. He can give us more information if you have questions about the circuit rider. But we're recommending basically a grant to them in amount up to $129,000 out of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Next, we have the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. This is for our septic tank remediation program in the Illinois River Watershed. We're recommending a loan with principal forgiveness for them for $395,291, and they're just to continue that program. I think we awarded them about 1.1, and they've spent about 90% of those construction funds. So this should get them like another 6 months or so to continue that program up there. Next, we have H2 Ozarks. This is the other septic tank remediation program. They're requesting $600,000, and we're recommending $600,000 along with forgiveness. They do the Upper White and also the Buffalo River watersheds, and they've spent, they had 1.5 million between the two watersheds, and they've spent about 70% of those funds. So this should get them another 6 months at least. And then we'll reevaluate again when they start to get short of money and see if we need to come back. Now we're going into our traditional projects. First up, we have Hoyen. It's a regionalization of the city of Malvern. We're recommending $1,842,060 in a loan and $1,842,060 in a loan with principal forgiveness for this regionalization project. Oxford, for a wastewater treatment facility improvements project, we're recommending $471,657 in a loan, $1,414,970 in a loan with principal forgiveness. Hardy has a wastewater treatment facilities improvement project. We're recommending a loan in $1,004,323 and a loan with principal forgiveness in an amount of $334,774. You guys want me to pause at the end of each slide? So
Let's
that if
just
you
take
have
them all,
questions,
unless
or
y'all-
do you want to go all the way
Let's take
to
them
the
all and vote at the end unless y'all don't like that. What do you like? What do you like, Mr. Vice Chairman? You don't hear them all? Neil, you want to hear them all?
Let's hear them all.
Is that what this side of the room says?
Let's hear them all.
Okay,
I got a question.
yes, sir.
The city of Hoyen?
Yeah.
It says here, if I'm reading this right, that they gonna have to increase their sewer rate by 184%.
Sir.
Does people know that?
So typically at this point, the people do not know that yet. But before they can close on the funding, they will have to notify their citizens. They'll have to have public meetings. That's part of our process. So if in the event that the citizens do not agree with this, they can decline this loan, this funding, and come back at a later time. Or there's potential that they could reduce the scope of the project a little bit to make it more palatable to their citizens.
but in reality, what does, you get a letter saying that it's opposed, but what do you have, what opportunity do you have to really oppose it?
So they have to do public meetings with the citizens. They have to go and do an open vote at the city council. They have to discuss it at city council. They have to notify the citizens what the rates are gonna be. That's part of it.
And they got the ability to turn the loan down. They don't have
But
to.
no, that wasn't my question. My question is the citizens. What are the citizens' opportunity to make their feelings known
Yeah.
before the city accepts it?
So there's two opportunities. When they increase the rates, they have to do that at city council with with a resolution, and it has to be notified, public notified. And then also when they adopt the bond documents, there's also a referendum period in there, 30 days. Because all of our loans, almost all of our loans go out in the form of a bond. So there's definitely opportunities, multiple opportunities for the citizens
Okay,
to share their concerns about increases in rates.
And there's another thing there too. You say 100 and something% increase. Well, that's like me selling you something and saying, Bruce, I'm gonna take 50% off this price. Well, I just raised the price. What I'm saying is that the rates may be so low that 100% may not be that much. I mean, it may be $5 or something.
The other thing I want to point out, when we do our analysis, probably about 50% of the time, that initial analysis we do before the loan, they already have to raise their rates significantly because they haven't kept their rates up to date. So they're already struggling to do operation and maintenance. And as part of our funding, we require that they can fully fund their operation and maintenance as well as the loan, plus 10%,
Yeah, if you're looking at a rate that was set in 1980,
which is very common. Especially on the wastewater side, they're not under Act 605, so a lot of times when we get the wastewater applications, they have not been consistently keeping up with need, and asset management, and even doing, a cost index increase every year of 1.5 to 3%. A lot of them have a rate that's been around for a while.
And even with this, that they never rate burden factors when they want to.
So they'll still be under the 1.5. And that's on your spreadsheet. I think we put the rate burden factor on the spreadsheet.
I can tell you, if I was to go home this afternoon and my wife had a water bill that done gone up 180-something%, I'd have to leave home.
I don't disagree with you.
but the sad part, Bruce, it's not in that situation. It's the little old widows that just getting by on social security
Yeah.
and pulling.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
$45 to you and me is not anything, but to them, it is.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we do also recommend all of the systems work with the LIHWAP program, so that those citizens have that additional support. Unfortunately, there's just not enough grant dollars available
Yeah.
to help everybody that really needs the help. We have the city of Kaiser, they're doing wastewater collection system improvements. We're recommending $1,316,316, and along with principal forgiveness, an amount of $3,264,947. Elkins wastewater improvements phase 1. I want to tell you, we did call Elkins first to make sure they are aware of the loan versus the principal forgiveness. And they said they were expecting a large loan, so I wanted to give you that notice up front. We're recommending a loan for $32,663,474.50, and a loan with principal forgiveness for $2,336,525.50. Junction City for their water line, wastewater line improvement, we're recommending a loan for $300,000 and a loan with principal forgiveness for $1,200,000. Should be the rest of the principal forgiveness in the wastewater systems. All the rest of these are gonna be loans. And so I would anticipate that some of these would decline the funding at some point in the next 6 to 9 months. Warren's doing a wastewater treatment plant sludge removal and aeration improvements project for $900,000. So we're recommending a loan of $900,000 from the clean water program. Otherwise, doing a wastewater system improvements project, we're recommending a loan for $450,667. Hope is doing a sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, $3,685 in loan funds is our recommendation. Maynard's doing a wastewater treatment facility improvements project. We're recommending a loan in $405,033. Warren also is, doing an industrial park sewer improvements project. We're recommending a loan $824,558. Also has a wastewater treatment facilities improvements project. We're recommending a loan of $787,415. And you'll notice on this one, they're on there twice, but it was where this project scored on the project priority list, determined which projects, if any, got funding out of the principal forgiveness. So the other projects scored high enough that they got principal forgiveness, and that score is really on the project, not on the community. Ash Flat, wastewater treatment facility improvements project. We're recommending $4,460,670. Dias is a wastewater collection system improvements project, $3,393,302. Van Buren has got a Parkview Drive Woodrow Gravity Sewer improvement project for we're recommending $3,435,000 in loan. Van Buren also has a South 28th Street Interceptor Phase 1 project. We're recommending $4,430,000 in loan. Hampton has a wastewater collection rehabilitation project. We're recommending $2,291,184 in loan. Rondo has a wastewater treatment improvements project. We're recommending $1,450,093 in loan. Cave City has a sewer main rehab. We're recommending $609,515 in loan. Gurdon has a wastewater system rehabilitation project. We're recommending $4,350,382 in loan funds. And Mulberry has a wastewater extension project that we're recommending $859,624 in loan funds. And now we're switching over to drinking water. Do you want me to keep going to the end? Is that what we decided? Or do you want to do the clean water? It's up to you guys.
What do you want to do? Keep going to the end?
Go for it, go.
Okay, so we're on clean water, or on drinking water now. So we have that new pot of principal forgiveness to allocate. And we're gonna use the same, priority ranking system scored on the project priority list. So the first recommendation on the drinking water revolving fund, we have the city of Coy for a regionalization with Grand Prairie Regional Water Distribution District. We're recommending a loan in an amount up to $534,517. And for principal forgiveness in an amount of $1,603,550. Old Bella Vista Property Owners Association, we're recommending a regionalization with they're requesting to regionalize with the city of Bentonville. Recommending a loan in the amount up to $800,000 and a loan with principal forgiveness in the amount of $3,200,000.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Wish we could principal forgive everything. But Northwest Arkansas principal forgiveness, do they qualify for this?
They do, actually, because these citizens qualify. So this is actually a very small community. I think they have 60-ish users, and the majority of them are on fixed incomes. And in order to do this $4 million project for about 60 people, it's almost impossible to fund. They've been trying to figure out how to fund it for over 7 years.
Okay, answers my question.
But it is hard to swallow. You say Bentonville, which is the most prosperous part of the state, getting principal forgiveness.
Bentonville's not getting the forgiveness.
I understand.
Old Bella Vista's getting the principal forgiveness.
And they have water issues
They do.
in that community.
Yes, they have they're struggling to maintain the system. Their operator retired 5 years ago and she's still running the system because they can't find an operator. And getting them off of their own system and letting Bentonville take care of them is the best long-term sustainable solution for that small community.
Oh, I had one other thing too, regionalizations, I mean, that is, sometimes that's the only way to solve some of these issues, is for them to be a part of a bigger system. And to quit trying to maintain that little bitty system with very few ratepayers. Hopefully they can do.
And that's what all four of these first ones are, is our regionalization projects that,
Well, I've got a question about regionalization. This top one is Coy. They're gonna be regionalized with Grand Prairie. I'm assuming they're gonna have a rate increase. Will it just be the people of Coy with a rate
Yes.
increase or the whole regional
Will be-
system? Just,
the citizens of Coy will have to carry the loan. So typically what happens with a regionalization is when they get on the big system, they'll pay whatever rate the system has. And then there'll be a surcharge on top of that for that loan until it gets paid off.
like,
So we will work with these four in particular because these are really big numbers for the number of citizens in each of these communities. And try to figure out the best way, can we extend that term a little bit to give them the ability to lower that. The next one we have is Wabaseka. They're also wanting to regionalize with Grand Prairie, and we're recommending a almost $2 million loan for a very small community with a $7.9 million loan with principal forgiveness. This one is very big for a different reason. In order to get the water to that part of the state from where Grand Prairie is and to have the capacity to serve, they have to put in a new transmission main, big line. And that's why it's so expensive. Now, when other citizens in other communities down in that region need water, they'll be able to hook up and then they'll help pay down that loan. So that Wabaseka hopefully won't have to carry that for the full term, the full amount for the full term. But as other communities in that lower part of that region start to connect, Grand Prairie is gonna work with them on some kind of connection fee to help reduce that cost for the citizens of Wabaseka. Because that's a big number for Wabaseka, but that's the best we can come up with based on what we have. It still puts them at a very high uncertainty factor, but we're hoping that those other communities, once the line gets in place, will also elect to connect in some capacity. Not necessarily regionalized, but in some capacity, so that they won't have to carry that long. Other questions about the regionalization? Next, we have Oak Hill. They want to also regionalize with Bentonville. We're recommending a loan amount of $1,375,000 and a loan with principal forgiveness amount of $4,125,000. Little River County Water System Improvements, we're recommending a loan in the amount of $4,821,382. And I believe theirs is, they did not receive principal forgiveness, even though they were higher on the project card list, because their rate burden factor did not exceed that rate, if I remember correctly. Hyatt is doing a water system improvements project. This is a lead service line project. So lead service line funding comes out of a different pot. It has a different pot of principal forgiveness. So these guys are not actually competing with the other systems for the same principal forgiveness. And that's right now required 51% loan, 49% principal forgiveness. That's the grant conditions that we get. Helena, West Helena. They're doing citywide water restoration projects. We hope they'll start soon. We're recommending them a loan in the amount of $3,250,000 and a loan with principal forgiveness in the amount of $9,750,000. That's still gonna leave them with a pretty high rate burden factor, but that was the best we could do with what we had at this time. Any other questions on this one, this group?
505% on this Oak Hill.
And they're still
I
getting.
thought 182 was bad. How about 500%?
well, the one that rattles my brain is Elkin
The 30,
35 million.
for like 3,000 people. I just. I don't know how
Now, if
that maps out.
yeah, we called and spoke to them before we made the recommendation. And they said they were aware it was gonna be a big loan and they were prepared for it.
Who do about that? Don't mind me asking.
Off the top of my head, it was, I don't remember,
Consulting engineer.
the consulting engineer.
This is the water, this doesn't include, when you give us water rate, that doesn't include the sewer, that's just the,
Nope, nope, that's
So-
just water.
I saw like one, there was a $220 a month, Old Bella Vista, $221 water, and the sewer's gonna be, is it gonna be the same thing?
Not necessarily, because, you know, we don't look at both rates unless it's a combined system. If it's a combined system, then it's 3%. But we don't analyze for both, because they don't always have their own wastewater system. But that's why the percentage is 1.5 and not 3, and I know it doesn't seem like a great method when you know, look at it, but when we were back in the day, when they were figuring it out, they decided, they, being our staff, at some point in the past, said 1.5% of the median household income is the maximum that anybody should pay for water or sewer, or 3%. And if we had enough money, we would definitely give out more, but it won't let me change. There we go. Did you do that or did I do that?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have Yorktown Water Association. This is a regionalization with Garrett Bridge Water Association. We're recommending a loan in the amount of $3,953,060. Next, we have Southeast Bradley County Water Association, water system improvements. We're recommending a loan in the amount of $418,926. And a loan with principal forgiveness in the amount of $1,256,778. Marshall has a downtown water main rehab project. We're recommending a loan amount of $642,125 and a loan with principal forgiveness in the amount of $1,926,375. Lake Rural Water Distribution District, they have a Highway 135 elevated tank rehabilitation project. We're recommending a loan in the amount of $1,254,955. Conway Corporation, they're doing a raw water line. We're recommending a loan of $32,495,300. Clarendon's doing a water treatment plant improvement project. We're recommending $540,028 in a loan and $1,620,085 in the loan with principal forgiveness. Holly Grove is doing a water system improvements project. We're recommending a loan in an amount of $2,500,129.12 and a loan with principal forgiveness in an amount of $1,621,432.88. Cherokee Village, it has a water line replacement project. We're recommending a loan in amount of $950,000, and that should be the end of the principal forgiveness for the water system. Pleasant Grove has a water meter replacements project. We're recommending an amount of $580,342. Grange Caledine Water Association, they're doing their evening shade booster pump project. We're recommending a loan amount of $405,250. Warren has a north water tank raising project. We're recommending a loan in amount of $720,000. Van Buren's doing a North Main and Washington Street water line improvements project for $3,750,000. We recommend a loan for $3,750,000. Van Buren's also doing a water tank rehab project and a mixing improvements project in the tank. We're recommending a loan amount of $2,300,000. And Tawnytown has an industrial tank installation project. We're recommending $6 million in a loan. McGee has a meter improvements project. We're recommending a loan amount of $2,880,147. Blytheville is doing a PFAS monitoring project, and this comes out of a separate funding source as well. There's a separate grant for emerging contaminants. PFAS is one of those emerging contaminants. So they're actually gonna get a loan with principal forgiveness in the amount of $13,819,500. Lone Oak is also doing a emerging contaminant project. So, that also qualifies for principal forgiveness. So these two should be in the principal forgiveness column. We're recommending an amount of $572,088 along with principal forgiveness. That should conclude my drinking water recommendations. and next we have our state funded projects. Dogwood Community Water Association, they're doing a water meter replacement and SCADA update installation project. They're recommending a loan amount of $335,375. Mulberry's doing a water treatment plant fencing project. We're recommending a loan in amount of $64,786. Cherokee Village is doing a generator replacement project at Roaring Spring. We're recommending a loan amount of $231,750. Walker Water Association is also doing a water meter replacement project. We're recommending a loan in the amount of $247,257. And then Warren is also doing a Pennington Road Sewer Extension Project, $362,697 is our recommendation for loan fundings. Individual funding sources are listed on your spreadsheet and then also in your individual project summaries for each one. And that should conclude our funding for recommendation.
Very good job.
So this is now up for you guys for a vote.
And, you know, Debbie, I know, and I don't wanna get off, you know, we need to do the vote and not talk, but I know this is quite a job to present this, but I can't imagine all the work that goes behind it.
See Mr. Bob Hunt sitting at the other end of the table down there?
Yeah.
Bob has underwritten every one of these. And he is our only loan underwriter. He reviews and approves and recommends and goes through all the analysis and works very closely with accountants and consultants and borrowers to get the best information we can to come up with the best recommendation for you guys that we can when it comes to these and making sure we have the money available and getting through so that we can get the best.
Well, I know there's a lot of work going on.
Yes, he does a lot of work.
And we appreciate it. Okay, so you see the recommendations here.
I move we accept.
Second.
All right, motion and second that we accept the, staff's recommendations on all these. Is there any questions about any of it or anything? Or comments, questions or comments? It's a lot of money. All right, all in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no?
I lied, there's one more. I forgot about the additional funding, I apologize. So we do have two projects that came in, they've opened bids, and bids came in higher than expected, that's a big surprise for all of us right now, I'm sure, since everything's running 30+% higher than anticipated. We're recommending additional loan funds to the city of Magazine in the amount of $1,329,072 out of the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. And also for the city of McGee, we're recommending $350,000 out of the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund, so you'll have to vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. What's your, desire on this?
I'll make motion to accept staff recommendation.
Got a second? I'll second. Motion and second, any discussion on that? Questions? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no?
All I have for you today.
Very good job. I know we need to move on. I don't want to delay, but I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I see up here, and I don't know nothing about what I'm asking, but I see I think of some cities that I'm surprised are not up there. Do they just not interested in it, or do they not know about it, or do they not care about it, or do they?
As in, they're not coming in to get things done.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like,
So then
there seems like there's some cities that this would benefit very much, but they're not here. Maybe they don't need anything. I don't know. I know some people need stuff.
We talk at just about every conference around the state. We work closely with municipal leagues to make sure that they blast out information about our program. On our website, we send out informational emails once in a while saying, hey, the deadline's coming. If you want to be in consideration for forgiveness, don't forget to apply. We work very closely with the Rural Water Association. We work very closely with Communities Unlimited, another nonprofit that goes out and helps people fill out applications so that they don't have the
Planning and development districts.
planning and development districts, we work closely with them as well. They're all very aware of our programs and the funding available. The consultants, we talk to them a lot. What were you gonna say, Chris?
I was gonna say, one thing to keep in mind is we have funded a ton of projects in the last 2 to 3 years too. I mean, you're talking about over 500 projects, over $2.5 billion.
Oh, yeah, it's
Some
amazing.
of those folks already have a project fund. And so they were funded a year ago or, a year before. There's still a bunch of folks that could use funding that need to come to us, but know that we have funded a lot of projects in the last 2.5 years.
Was it that ARPA funds that we funded so many at one time?
We funded a lot with.
So-
Has any of those people on the waiting list been able to move up?
Yeah, we funded about 60 million in waitlist projects, August.
Yeah, August, September. Yeah, about 40, was it 42?
42 projects.
Additional projects.
We did 157 the first round in 22, then we did 42 more projects off the wait list.
The next round.
Then we had WIN, which was a standalone project funded directly by the legislature. And so we've had a lot of projects just on the ARPA fund, and then you count the
So,
clean water and drinking
yeah, I
water.
was gonna say, a lot of the projects that came in for ARPA funds, if you guys remember back to that long meeting.
Yeah.
The folks that didn't get ARPA funded, we recommended state revolving fund, and we kept our interest rates artificially low, 1.75 for a 20-year loan for those folks that didn't get an ARPA project funded. So that was our best alternative for them. Now, a lot of them are moving forward with those projects, but there's a fair number that decided not to move forward with their projects. They didn't get a grant, and that's, every system has to decide that.
Well, there'll be some of these systems that maybe didn't get principal forgiveness that may hold off on their project and apply next year. And because we just took a slug off the top of the project priority list, and so they're that much closer to the top now. And they may get funded next year.
And that, by saying that, I didn't mean that we don't do a lot, because certainly it's amazing how many projects we've done. It's just some communities, I wonder why they don't apply.
There are some that do not apply, that have not applied.
And there are some that get their funding other places. USDA Rural Development has a good loan grant program as well. And some of the really small communities can actually get a better deal from USDA Rural Development or Delta Regional Authority than they can from us. And so we always tell them, look at all your options, get your best option. We will always be available, I think, to be able to fund them if they can't get it anywhere else. And we do our best, we're required by our capitalization grant agreements that our rates have to be below market. So we're always gonna have a decent lending rate for them. It's just not gonna be 1.75 anymore.
But if you're in a community that's not growing, and you don't have something broken, why would you need a loan? But we don't do operational loans, just to pay the meter readers and that sort of thing. So this would be really for some expansion or some replacement of some projects or extending the lines or.
Major infrastructure.
Thank you very much, David. Okay, we'll go to our partners reports. Yeah. All right, Chris is gonna lead us through this.
All right, well, first up, Justin Meisner with NRCS, who's our acting state conservationist right now, and, comes from us from the great state of Montana.
Cool.
Yeah, so you'll be in your position through
December, yeah, I'm actually going back December 20th, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we'll have an acting on and off that next week, and then Amanda will start on the 29th.
I want to say too, Justin has just jumped right in here. I mean, I happened to be at the same meeting with him in Oklahoma, and he's just been just all over the place, in the acting role as the state conservation. So.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Now, I'm told that wearing a cowboy tie is I'm in a safe place. So.
You're safe.
All right.
Go Kelly.
Yeah, we're just sandbagging right now. We're just waiting for the sun to just really get going. So we're in a good spot. But, it's been great being in Arkansas. definitely seen some different things from Montana. I was told it was gonna be hot and humid, and I had about 2 weeks of it, and the rest of it's been pretty pleasant, so I don't know what's so bad about the south, but it seems pretty pleasant, but.
When you get here,
September 1st. So we're a little, I didn't go to Houston for a meeting and, I don't recommend it. That was not pleasant, so. But we're in Arkansas right now we finished up our FY 24, ended up with financial assistance to landowners. We were somewhere around $165 million that we put into EQIP CSP contracts. That's using Farm Bill money, using the IRA money, all funding sources. Doing a lot of cover crops, irrigation infrastructure, tailwater recovery systems, things like that. It was a really big year. It's a record year. Arkansas has been setting a record year for funding for the last several years in a row under Mike's stewardship. Going into FY 25, instead of being 165 million, our initial budget right now is 179 million. We've been trying to hire staff to get them out in the field offices. We have our staffing limit is around 447 employees. We currently have about 336. We're been hiring, trying to get some job announcements about 5-10 a week. We end up hiring from other NRCS offices within Arkansas, so it's kind of that revolving door, really slow, gradual increase, but I mean, most agencies are seeing the same thing. It's getting harder and harder to hire and retain staff, but we are working towards that. With that 179 million, we've adjusted, Clyde and Amanda both talked at the state technical committee meeting. We're trying to adjust some of our payment rates, try to get them a little bit more in line with what you've been talking about. The sheer cost of things going up, trying to get our payment rates elevated a little bit to try to keep up with that inflation right now. That's the biggest part. I mean, Amanda's announcement to start December 29th is big. That she's just moving from the partnership side. I mean, she's literally moving one office over. But she'll still be there to really guide the partnership side, the RCCP side, but so is Roger. I mean, Roger's been there. He knows that system. She'll be there. He'll be acting, I'm sure at some point. I'm not sure who will set up for that job officially, but there's gonna be a lot of consistency in the state of Arkansas with NRCS. And I think that's the most important thing for not only NRCS staff, our partner agencies, but the landowners and other partner organizations to have consistency. In Montana, we're gonna go through the same thing. Our state con retired December 28th. So we're gonna be going through the same process of trying to find as much consistency as possible. That's the biggest part of what we have. We do have some watershed projects, some BIO projects that are funded. We have 7 of 8 of them have been approved right now. They're on the chief's desk with one more. Those are the major infrastructures on some of the HU communities that we're working through on some of those projects. So, with that, if you have any questions for me and our CS wise.
Any questions? Well, Justin, that was a good job and welcome to Arkansas.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Been great. We actually have our state leadership team meeting right now, so Roger and I are gonna bail out, but I appreciate your time. Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
After. I didn't get this from, yeah.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first time presenting here. I'm assistant dean for extension of research. So today I would like to present on two different things. Extension activities, GAPD extension activities, and research activities. We have a total of $10 million funding for extension activities for different labs. We have 3 different labs. Lone Oak, Pine Bluff, and Lake Village or Midora labs. And also we have external funding around $30 million external funding from last 4 years. And we have been utilizing those funding for our research to help local farmers. And I would like to give some specific activities from our department. We recently received inspection certification for all the diseases, fish diseases for Arkansas. I think this is the first time we received actually
that this kind of certification. So local farmers, especially, fish farmers, they can export or import using that certification without going, going to other states. And also we are, recently developed with AI technology. So it's, we are not developing any code for AI, but we are using as an application part. We have a collaboration with a company called the Tomato Company in Vietnam, and to identify different species behavior, fish species, and also agronomy also. So we'd like to see a different species identification as well as the feeding behavior. So our team is actually building one AI room. So AI kind of machine, we call machine control room. And with that, we would like to give a training to undergraduate and high school students. And also we are developing high economically important species, for example, shrimp and also other marine bass species. That is also a part of our program now. So for that, we started working on low cost RAS system. So it's under $5,000. Any farmers can build the RAS system, and we have a prototype, and we would like to show our farmers to to how to build the system, and also they can do their own backyard shrimp culture. So that is actually also we are working on it. And we have also called many high school students for our AI projects to learn, to increase more interest in agriculture and aquaculture and also other science branches. When it comes to the research, we are trying to use different alternative methods to treat animal diseases, including aquatic animals. That is also an initiative. And also we are ongoing live larval feeds. So, for example, sea monkeys we call Artemia. The Artemia, the culture is only available in Vietnam, and we are trying to introduce that in Arkansas as a substantial and side income for the farmers. So that is also we are doing.
What was the name of that species?
Artemia franciscana. It's a live feed. It is a live feed for most, fish feed. Okay. So yeah. So you can come and visit anytime. We are inviting all the schools, and also we are giving training also for local farmers. And also we are supporting some of the issues like high CO2 issue in the Lonoke area, and also we are collaborating with the local leaders, to mitigate those issues. We are working on some projects, research projects. If that's all from the. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Great job.
Jason Funkhouse. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Jason is been our lead with the state water plant. So we've worked very closely with him and his team in the Little Rock District and other members of the boards. Appreciate it.
Yes, good morning. We get to work with Chris, Tate, and we'll work with Whit. All three are pleasures to work with. Appreciate their steadfast dedication to water resource management in Arkansas. We have several projects with you guys. Our commander has actually been involved in big projects, high priority for the district, so I get to brief them with the commander once a month. The water plan, as Chris talked about earlier, we're moving into the next phase, which is water supply, water infrastructure. Unfortunately, Chris doesn't know this yet. I just found it out late yesterday afternoon. One of the ladies that's working on the contract got sick, and so we're behind schedule about 2 weeks on getting the contract advertised. Unfortunately, I just found that out yesterday, Chris. But they're moving along. We plan to have it advertised, by the first week of December and hopefully awarded right around the Christmas time or shortly thereafter. It doesn't delay the project any. We're still planning to have stakeholder meetings to start up in the spring. But it just kind of compresses the consultant schedule a little bit. But other than that, the water plant project will go along just fine. The second project is our levy assessment project that we have with you guys and with the Land Commission. Where we're analyzing levies across the state. It's actually 47 counties in Arkansas, trying to find new levies that the Corps might not consider levies. So they're using aerial photography and LiDAR. And the first scan of those 47 counties, I think, found somewhere around possibly 500 new levies that are unaccounted for. Whittled those down from 500 actually down to around 34. And so we've got these 34 new levies. A lot of those levies, those 500, were environmental levies like duck ponds and things like that, that might not really be protecting anything. They're just holding water back for environmental reasons such as ducks. But so we've got these 34, working with the state to further scrutinize those to see if they are indeed protecting something, what they are protecting. And reaching out to those counties that they're in to try to make boots on the ground visits to either the levy or to somebody that knows about these levies. So that's a pretty high profile project. Honestly, the first of the kind in the country. So we're getting a lot of help from our headquarters staff. It's a pretty innovative approach to try to quantify the number of levies and then qualify them later on, what condition are they in. So that's the big ones. We're wrapping up a third project, and that's the Illinois River Flood Study. It's actually Northwest Arkansas Flood Study, where we've developed a set of equations that planners in Benton and Washington County that are developing in the Illinois River watershed can utilize to help understand flooding conditions, rainfall conditions as they design their infrastructure, particularly like retention, detention ponds, things of that nature. So we'll be wrapping that up this month and then working with Tate and Chris to finalize the report and the equations sometime in December. Another project that we have with you guys, but it's fully funded by the Corps of Engineers, it's called the Sustainable Rivers Program. It's getting a lot of interest because it allows the Corps to analyze flows downstream of Corps dams, Corps of Engineer dams, to see if we can modify our releases, either increase or decrease or change when we make the releases to benefit environmental habitat downstream, particularly threatened and endangered species. We've got 3 ongoing right now in the state. We've got Fuchs Lafay, Cossatot River, and Black River in northeast Arkansas. And we were just found out we were successful in getting 2 new ones on Rolling Fork and Saline River in southwest Arkansas, part of the Tri-Lakes. That'll be a partnership where we're actually going to be working with Oklahoma to develop some environmental flows for those streams out of those dams. But that's pretty interesting and innovative program. Again, it doesn't cost the states or anything any money. It just requires their time in helping us to define those environmental parameters. And the last project that I'll wrap up with, and it's a partnership that we have with Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. It's our White River Basin study, where we're looking at most of the White River Basin, particularly the upper end, I guess, from the headwaters at Coombs all the way down to DeVos Bluff, where we're taking a holistic approach at the available water resources in the basin. How are we managing those in our reservoirs? And comparing it to the needs of the basin, drinking water, hydropower, those are the 2 big ones, but it also, those dams do a lot of flood control, protecting farmers downstream and their crops. So we're going to be really doing a deep dive over the next 5 years on analyzing those needs of the basin and how much water is actually available versus what's needed in the basin for current current hydrologic conditions. Those reservoirs were designed in the forties and fifties using hydrologic data from the early 1900s to mid 1900s. Things changed a lot in the past 70 years. There's a lot of interest in that project to see how well the system can manage. That's all I have.
You guys have questions or comments for Jason? Good report, Jason.
Thank you.
Good job.
One on the line.
Okay. I realize y'all have had a very busy morning, so I'll try to report as brief as I can. First off, I would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to visit with you today. We do have a lot going on. We are real excited about Amanda being named as the state conservationist. We know that she's going to do a great job and our work can just continue on without any interruption. Last week, we did the Southern Soil Health Conference up at ASU. That was a really good meeting. We had some outstanding speakers that came in from several states. There was over 120 people there, producers and professionals, and we were really pleased about that. That was, the Arkansas Soil Health Alliance, and that was what that group was. We also have several other grants. We have a locally led work group grant. They are meeting on December the 10th. We have got the video finished, and we're working on some PSAs now to be used by the district so that they use that to help them better understand what the new format is. It's far more useful. It does take a whole lot more interest in what the stakeholders want and need rather than filling out a bunch of USDA forms. And so we're excited about that. We are involved in the Alliance grant. So that is one thing I'm really pleased. It has gone, it's been slow and there have been a few hurdles, but it's going really well now. We do continue to find some things, but Lori Dabbs is the coordinator for that. She is contract labor for AACD and she is doing a fantastic job. She understands those conservation practices. She lives in Stuttgart and we couldn't have had anybody to help with that, and she's doing a phenomenal job. We have hired as contract labor Dr. Delia Hawk, and she is heading that up of getting us back on track with our Envirothon. Next year, it's going to be held in March. It's going to be held at the U of A at Fayetteville on their farm. The Crops and Soil Science location there. We think that's going to be really good. And our goal is to get that one back on track and keep going. And we really appreciate NRCS giving us the funds to help cover her cost. Restore the Earth. I did notice that Dave White was on here and he may have some things he wants to say about that. So I won't get into a lot of on that except the fact that we are about to get started. We're excited about it. We do have some things that we're going to need to do to find some champions. As we know, farmers like to talk to other farmers to say what is the best thing for them to do. So, but that is in the mix and it's coming down the pike. As you know, a lot of our district employees, we've had a lot of turnover. These new employees need training. We have done, we did a lot of training over this past year. We have 5, and QuickBooks and their finances is one of the areas that they do struggle. But with what we can offer in pay, these people come on board knowing little or nothing about QuickBooks. And so we have talked to Cynthia Bearden. Many of you know her, and she has agreed to contract with us to provide training, 5 regional trainings, so that way these district employees can come in and kind of get a better handle on QuickBooks, get a better handle on what they need to know. We also had a Zoom meeting with Jeffrey BHM. He is with the auditors. And we had him go through a lot of the things that auditors are going to be looking for so that the district employees are not so intimidated by that process and so that they can see what they need to have gathered up when he does come to, or when his people do come to visit. So we are working very hard to provide training that these district employees need, especially these new ones. Many of them come with nothing more than a high school education. And sometimes we expect a lot out of them. I need training for that. Our annual meeting is going to be March 13th and 14th at the Wyndham. Of course, we're going to set aside the 13th. We really appreciate y'all being part of that. So we'll have it set up there like we always do on the morning of the 13th. Also, just to give you a heads up, we will be asking, one particular piece of legislation is some of the concerns that our board had is the way that when the law was changed, it had it where the 3 elected directors appointed the 2 appointed, and the 2 appointed certified the 3 elected. Well, some of us were not very comfortable with that. And so we visited with some folks, and we will have unless you tell me otherwise, we are going to ask the legislature to turn the appointment process back to you, the commissioners, that they will still oversee the elections. The elected will continue to provide you with recommendations, but we feel like it would be that it would just be better all around if y'all were the ones that actually approve those appointments. And so I'll be glad to send you a copy of that legislation. It's very brief. And before we go out and we get our, legislators to support it, want to make you aware of it and want to know if any concerns about that. I'll be glad to discuss it with you or with Chris or whomever. But that was just one area that it did seem as though there might be a conflict of interest, or it might be perceived that way. And we look very strongly to the commission for guidance and support and leadership. And so that was something we felt needed to be done. So that is my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. If not, thank you for your time.
David, thank you very much. I don't guess we have any questions.
Okay, good.
They may have Mike Daniels. I don't know if Mike's online. He was our last, report. Thank you, Dave. Mike, are you online?
I don't see him, but I will tell you his dad has been in very poor health, and Mike has been having to deal with a lot of that. So I don't know if that interferes or not.
Hey, so do we have any other business to come before us? Chris, do you have any other business?
No, sir.
Any commissioners have any other business or comments? All right, well, I would like to say I've enjoyed being your chairman for this year. Great group to work with. Thank you very much.
And you've been one of the best chairmen we've ever had.
I thought you was gonna say the best chairman in 2024.
And as staff, we appreciate the time that you put in.
Well, I've enjoyed doing it very much, to you and the staff. Kudos, you do a great job. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for doing that. Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Kind of introduce yourself and I just want to say we appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you. I'm Kevin Elliott, Mayor of City of Marshall. I appreciate the commission for looking at everything. More importantly, I mean, from my perspective, I guess, we cannot change, we cannot grow unless Arkansas Natural Resources, USDA get involved. We don't have the funding to do the projects. I've discussed with Miss Debbie several times. And anyway, but I guess what we look at and stuff is we coming from Arkansas Natural Resources asking, we've got 1944, 1946 water lines. This is our second phase on replacing. They're cast iron lead joint. A lot of them's lead service lines from the main to the meters. And we have a ton of galvanized lines. So like I said, we are trying to get this out of our system and move on. Anytime we have a leak, we fix them live. I mean, there's no valves to shut them off. And if you try to shut off one section of town, to shut this one line off, you shut over half a town down. So like I said, instead of having the confusion and the mishaps that we have, we work all of our leaks live. One thing you was talking about, the principle of forgiveness. We really focus on that, hot and heavy and hard, as Miss Debbie knows. I mean, I appreciate the 1.9 million. It'll be in front of my council December meeting over the $600,000 as far as a debt issue. You're talking about the loan payment. Marshall's like a lot of the other cities, rural areas. I mean, we have a lot of elderlies, we have a low, we are an LMI city, we're an LMI county. The businesses are not coming because we don't have a river and we don't have an interstate. We've got the mountains and we've got the Buffalo River. So I mean, tourist wise, yes, I mean, we do good off of that. I don't know what most people pay per thousand. Act 605, I would agree with 100%. I mean, I would like to see, and we've been focused on that, each system to maintain for itself. I think that is a great thing, to help. That's a good program. I mean, a good law that's there that it needs to be worked on and all systems do it. But, like other people, as of January the 1st, our water bill alone for the customers is $11.75 a thousand. And in 2025, we do the special audit for Act 605. I'm sure we're gonna have to go up again. I mean, all systems are gonna have to. There's gonna have to be a point somewhere. These elderly people that are on the fixed incomes, they're not gonna be able to afford this. And there's gonna have to be a point somewhere where this stops. I mean, it's really, really high and I get complaints on a daily basis. And I mean, like Miss Debbie is saying, our sewer system, it hasn't had a rate increase in 17 years. But we're trying to focus on trying to get the water set up because of Act 605. I've been mayor for the last 10 years. I worked for the city for almost 31 years as a water superintendent. I've seen the change. It's well needed, but I've seen people that walk in that office and, I would grab their bill and I would pay because I know their lifestyles. When you got 1,355 people, you know everybody by first name basis just about. So Chris Harris with Arkansas Rural Water, he worked with Marshall for several years. Matter of fact, I talked him into working with us. And he told me when he started with rural water, he said within 15 to 20 years, he said water would be the highest commodity there is. I said, there ain't no way. I said, it comes out of the ground, it comes everywhere. It's here. We've got plenty of it. And I can see it to this day. It's gradually getting higher and higher and higher. And it's going to be. But, again, I want to thank the commission for even looking at this and stuff. The principal forgiveness is huge on the rural areas because now then, which I'm sure the city's gonna be really looking in it because, they need these lines replaced. But when they see there's another $600,000 in debt, we're gonna have to do a rate increase to cover that, not counting your rate increase for 605. So you're looking within 2 to 3 years, they may be $14 a thousand or $15 a thousand. And that's getting really, really expensive, but you have to do your upgrades. Yes, you can reject it and stuff like that, but when you don't have valves to shut them off and you work everything live, and up in my area up there, it's not, like I said, it's all mountains. I mean, we had a 65% water loss. And when they was replacing phase 1, they found 7 water leaks that was going straight underground. I mean, they was anywhere from 2 inches to 4 inches, but yet if there's, these 7 leaks with this right here, there was our water loss right there. We had no way of even knowing that them lines was leaking because they'd hit a cavity in the ground. They may have been coming out in the Buffalo, or they may have been coming out in one of the creeks. Nobody knows, but nevertheless, there was 7 leaks found and we went from a 65% to a 40%. So I mean, that was that much difference. So I'm hoping this phase 2 is just like phase 1 and we find some more of them to drop our rating, our rate loss down. But, still, there's going to have to be a stopping point somewhere because the fixed income people just can't afford it. And with the new state laws and regulations, if you've got a water line within so many feet, you can't drill a well, and furthermore, they probably couldn't afford to have a well drilled. But it's just getting really hard for the elderly people. But again, we couldn't do what we do without Arkansas Natural Resources and USDA and DRA. They have helped us on 2 or 3 of our projects also. And like I said, for us to be where we are today, we have the thanks to them and the commission that looks at this every time we apply. And I want to thank y'all.
Well, thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to commend you. You're just one of 2 people I've met from Marshall that don't hang sheetrock.
I don't log and I don't hang sheetrock. And that's the 2 things that goes on, because the sheetrockers come down south to sheetrock and the loggers are in the forest cutting logs.
Well, I want to commend you on, working hard Marshall's a wonderful community and it's good people. But I want to commend you on working hard to stay ahead of things, doing your best to try to stay ahead of things. I know it's tough and, nobody thinks about water. You just think you go turn the faucet on and it's always gonna be there,
Right.
and it's a tough job, I know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody got anything else?
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Mayor Andrew Goodlow from the town of Wabasiki.
Oh, welcome, sir.
Good to be here, and I just want, anything more I say would be just echoing what the mayor from Marshall said, but I would just like to commend y'all on the work that you do here and to keep these small towns very much needed. We struggle with the water, most of all. Water, sewer we struggle with. That's the biggest problem, age-old problem in these small communities. And you just can't afford to operate, with such a small amount of people but we appreciate the work you've done. We appreciate the vote that you've done, what you decided to do for these communities. And we definitely appreciate Mr. Bob here, Miss Debbie here, Chris here. We appreciate what you do for these areas. It was much needed. Like I said, we just echoing what was just said. We definitely thrive on these forgiveness loan. It's gonna be tough either way, but we definitely appreciate there's one hurdle there, and it's a big hurdle because we were bad shape, but we definitely appreciate what you've done.
Well, Mayor, I want to tell you, we appreciate you and we appreciate you coming today. And towns like Wabasika and Marshall are the backbone of Arkansas in this nation, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? If not, do we vote on adjourning? I forgot.
Mr. Chair, this is Mayor Barnes from the city of Hardy. Do you mind if I chime in for a second?
Please do, Mayor. We appreciate you being on here.
Yes, sir. I apologize I wasn't able to make it today in person, but I wanted to extend my gratitude and thankfulness to you all for your work and approving the Hardy Waterworks loan and the amount of the principal forgiveness. And I believe one of our commissioners made a point earlier on the ratio that is being used to calculate those and how detrimental that can be on some of these small services in the rural areas. And I'd just like to leave a challenge with you all to revise and look back at that ratio and see if that's something that we can help these rural communities with and take the burden off of the citizens. There's so much federal money there and state money there. And I'd just like to put some pressure on this commission to look at that ratio, please. And maybe some of these small towns wouldn't have to take on the debts and raise the water prices for these elderly folks. I've got 65% elderly folks in my city and they can't afford it. And that's the complaints we hear at the local level. So Commissioner, thank you for bringing that up earlier. Thank you for the consideration of the loan. Thank you for the loan forgiveness, but please do reconsider looking at that ratio, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. And I appreciate you attending the meeting here, and that's a point well taken. So Chris is making notes on that right now, and we will research that. Anybody else online or anything? Well, if not, I'm gonna declare us adjourned.